In today's episode, we've got 15 incredible videos showing how Teslas and their drivers handle crashes, close calls, and an increasing amount of anti-Tesla road rage. Roll the intro.
Wham Baam, Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.
This submitter was on his way to work at Tesla, which is why we're keeping him anonymous. Tesla has some interesting policies about their employees and social media. As a Tesla employee, he knows all about Tesla's safety features, but he had no idea that his morning commute would be putting them to the test. Everything seemed fine on this beautiful morning until he noticed something strange up in the sky in his peripheral vision. By the time he'd realized what was happening, he was too close to the falling tree, and it was too late for him to do anything about it. After his Tesla had been struck by the tree, a group of workmen who'd been felling the tree immediately rushed over to assist him. They apologized profusely and told him the tree had fallen in the wrong direction. Thankfully, our submitter wasn't seriously injured, and the responding police officer noted this was the first time he'd ever responded to an incident like this that hadn't involved a fatality. The Tesla's roof and upper frame were destroyed, but our submitter was alive. Even though his car was totaled, I think it's safe to assume that he'll be replacing it with another Tesla. Austin was taking his usual route home and was trying out the latest version of full self-driving that he just updated to the day before. As his Tesla entered an intersection, it was struck by a speeding pickup truck after the driver ran a stop sign. FSD reacted to the impending collision by alerting Austin both audibly and visually, and it even swerved to the right while applying the brakes before the collision occurred. The rear footage from this incident is especially interesting, as it reveals that FSD applied the brakes automatically a full second before the impact. It's worth noting that the pickup would have struck the driver's door. Instead, it impacted the Model Y's fender. Thankfully, nobody was injured in the collision. The pickup truck belonged to the city of Renton, Washington, and the apologetic driver accepted responsibility after admitting to speeding and running the stop sign. Police responded to the scene, and after watching this footage, the officer lectured the driver before asking for her information. We'll let you imagine how he reacted when she told him she'd left it at home. According to Austin, it was not pretty. Matt was on his way home from work and making a turn a block from his house when pedestrians crossing the street were hidden from his view by another car. His Tesla slammed on the brakes, reacting faster than he was able to. Sadly, the driver behind him either wasn't paying attention or she hit the accelerator instead of the brake pedal. The collision set off her airbags and she had to exit her car on the passenger side. Suddenly, they noticed her car was on fire. Smoke coming from the engine was the first sign of trouble. When first responders arrived, they opened her hood and extinguished the small fire that had ignited in the engine bay. Matt's initial repair estimate came to $20,000 US. He's hoping the car is totaled so he can buy it back with a salvage title. Regardless of what happens with his insurance claim, both Matt and the pedestrians were grateful for his Tesla's automatic emergency braking. Chris was driving his Model 3 in rush hour highway traffic when he found himself boxed in by 4 semi-trucks. This reminds me of that Volvo truck commercial with Jean-Claude Van Damme when he does the epic split. Even the lighting is on point. This video didn't have a cool ending like that commercial though. A semi-truck registered in Romania merged into Chris's lane, sideswiping his Tesla. Chris thinks the trucker didn't see his bright red Tesla, as Romanian drivers sit on the left side instead of the right side like UK drivers. Since the trucker didn't speak English, it took a while for Chris to explain that they needed to swap insurance details. His insurance provider told him it shows the other driver is clearly responsible, and proving that would have been impossible without his Tesla's cameras. His Model 3 ended up getting a new bumper cover, quarter panel, and light cluster, and repairs cost £6,800, about $8,400 US, and took 2 weeks. Christy was driving down a highway in San Diego, California, when a pickup in front of her suddenly rolled over. A small car had attempted to merge into the lane occupied by the pickup truck. The pickup driver swerved before losing control and colliding with the car, at which point the pickup flipped onto its side. Christy immediately pulled over and called 911. Christy's husband thinks she was thrilled to have a video to send to our channel, but she told us that isn't accurate. Less than a week later, Christy would be involved in a collision herself. Sadly, she'd taken her USB drive out to download the footage of the rolling pickup, and she'd forgotten to replace it. She was afraid she wouldn't have any video evidence of the collision. Thankfully, she was able to access a low-resolution copy of the video in her Tesla app, thanks to a new feature released in the 2024 Tesla Holiday Update. She'd been driving with full self-driving engaged when she reached behind her seat to turn off her baby's sound machine in the back. In the process, her leg hit the steering wheel, disengaging FSD before her car veered into the median barrier. Thankfully, neither Christy nor her baby were harmed. Repairing her Model Y cost $26,000, and her insurance provider decided to pay for them instead of totaling the car since it only had 5,000 miles on it. Ruben was driving home on a California highway when he approached a dually pickup. The extra wheels didn't seem to help the pickup driver though. Not only did they fall off, they then bounced off the guardrail before heading back toward the pickup on an attack run. Ruben told us his takeout order was ready for pickup and he didn't want his tacos to get soggy, so he kept going. Sadly, even vehicles with only 2 back wheels can have issues, as this video from Christian proves. He was on his way to work one morning and headed through Denver when he saw brake lights ahead and a shower of sparks flying across the road. That's when he noticed one of the car's wheels had gone rogue and was headed into oncoming traffic. He slowed down and prepared to react in case anything else crazy happened. This seems like something out of Final Destination. Christian slammed on the brakes. Miraculously, the wheel missed his Tesla, bouncing along next to him before threading the needle between other vehicles. He told us he'd had a Red Bull before heading to work, but it was that wheel that was given wings. Pranav's parents were driving home after having dinner in London when they approached an intersection with a green light. A driver coming from the left stopped at the red light, then suddenly floored it into the side of their Tesla. The occupants of the other vehicle became aggressive, so Pranav's parents called the police. Before they arrived, the occupants of the other vehicle jumped back in and took off. When the police arrived a few minutes later, they told Pranav's parents there was nothing they could do. Seriously? What about maybe looking for the vehicle that appears in the video evidence of a crime being committed? The vehicle that fled the scene only minutes ago. Ugh. This emitter was sitting at a red light in a school zone when a Honda approached him from behind. Wait, what was that all about? The Honda driver slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop behind our submitter, then passed on the right, nearly hitting his Tesla. At first, it looked like the Honda driver was going to make a right turn, but then they made an illegal left turn instead. Our submitter told us the driver was extremely aggressive, driving as if they were trying to get away from something or someone. The Honda driver then tailgated other traffic before changing lanes and rear-ending a black SUV. The Honda driver then fled while the SUV driver began chasing them. Our submitter told us he would have gladly provided his footage to the victim in the SUV, but even though he continued down the road for a while, he never saw either vehicle again. Ray had left his Cybertruck parked in a parking garage outside his workplace when 3 people he doesn't know started checking out his pickup. The Cybertruck flashed the lights at them when Sentry mode started recording, but Ray doesn't think they realized what that meant. When he reviewed this footage later, he wasn't initially sure if these were Cybertruck fans or haters. They started taking pictures with the Cybertruck while making offensive gestures. Then one of them put his hands on the pickup before getting spooked by something. During all of this activity, the Cybertruck's alarm never went off. He then returned and climbed up onto the truck's front lid. Understandably, Ray was upset when he saw this. Obviously, his Cybertruck wasn't damaged, but literally standing on top of someone else's truck without permission is not cool. Thankfully, the only other evidence of this disrespectful act that remained were footprints, and they were easily cleaned off. Eric was driving in Pensacola, Florida, when he suddenly heard the loud rumble of something approaching. It was the United States Air Force Thunderbirds as they performed a low-altitude flyby. Awesome! Chris was using a public charging station when he got a phone notification that charging had stopped. When he opened the live camera feed in the Tesla app, he found that someone was trying to remove the charging cable from his Tesla. Chris was using a J1772 Type 1 adapter Tesla included with his vehicle, along with an aftermarket locking ring, which he calls a Karen lock, which stops anyone from removing the plug without permission. After watching the stranger yank on the cable for a few seconds, Chris used the Tesla app to honk his horn. In response, the guy waved his hands in the air like he just didn't care. Just kidding, he did seem to care actually, but Chris did not. He wasn't done charging. Chris told us that charger thieves are a real problem. Evidently, this guy had assumed Chris didn't need to finish charging, which is obviously extremely inconsiderate. Chris thinks this sort of behavior needs to be called out as inappropriate, and we agree. Public chargers are public. Everyone has a right to use them, and if the one you want is already in use, you'll have to wait your turn like you should have learned in kindergarten. This submitter was driving behind an SUV that did something very strange to say the least. Our submitter told us the driver had struck the median after taking the turn too fast, but it looks to us like the driver ran over the island in the median before losing control well before the turn. The footage shows the brake lights coming on before the impact, so we can probably confirm they weren't asleep. Our submitter stopped and made sure everyone was okay. Thankfully, there were no injuries, but the SUV was undrivable. Our submitter called the police and reported the collision before leaving the scene. I'm sure the collision investigation report was very interesting. This submitter was driving about 10 miles north of Burlington, North Carolina, when the driver ahead of him threw a bunch of trash out of their window. Our submitter honked at them to show his disapproval. When they stopped at a stop sign, the passenger of the other car calmly got out and littered even more by throwing a full cup of soda at our submitter's Tesla. Our submitter reported the incident to law enforcement, but predictably, they never followed up. Mr. Dave was sitting at a red light in his Cybertruck when he had a feeling that the driver next to him wanted to show him what his truck could do. As expected, the other driver tried to roll coal, but Dave easily accelerated out of the danger zone. He told us that this sort of thing is really getting old. You might have noticed that the quality of this video is terrible. That's because it was downloaded in the Tesla app and is a quarter of the resolution of a normal Teslacam video. It looks like we've gone back to 2019. Please continue sending us the original videos taken from your Teslacam drives. When it comes to videos downloaded using the Tesla app, we're definitely not satisfied.
Wham, bam, Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.